Today's Bible story begins as two followers of Jesus were walking down the road from Jerusalem to Emmaus. They were walking along after Jesus had died, and they were talking with one another, but they were overwhelmed with sadness when another person came and joined them. It was Jesus, but they didn't know that it was Jesus. And as they were walking, the person said to them, "What are you talking about?" And they stopped, and Cleopas said to Jesus, "How could you not know what's going on? Are you the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard?" And Jesus said to him, "Well, tell me about it." And so they explained. Jesus of Nazareth had come and had been on the earth and had taught them. They thought Jesus was going to be the Messiah, but Jesus had been turned over by the chief priests and the leaders and had been crucified. Now he had been in the tomb for 3 days, and he was no longer alive. But just this morning, some friends of theirs, some women, had gone to the tomb, and they had gone to put spices on Jesus' body. But when they got there, the tomb was empty, and they thought that Jesus was alive. Jesus looked at the men and said, "Why are you doubting? Didn't you know? Didn't you hear Jesus tell you this was how it had to be? Don't you remember when Jesus taught you from the scriptures, the prophecies that said this had to happen?" But then Jesus gently went on and answered all of their questions. He reminded them about all that he had done and about all that he had told them was going to happen. And he helped them know what it was that they needed to do, but they still didn't know it was Jesus. As they got to town, they were headed further, and it appeared that Jesus was going to carry on. But instead they said, "Come and stay with us. It's evening." And so Jesus went with them to their house. And when Jesus went inside, he took bread and he broke it. And when he did, they knew it was Jesus. After all that time, they'd been together all day. And just then they realized it was Jesus. At that moment, he vanished from their sight. The two men looked at one another and said, "What should we do?" And they immediately said, "Let's go back to Jerusalem and tell everybody what has happened." And so they ran back all that way to Jerusalem, and they went and found the disciples, and they told them, "Jesus is alive. He's appeared to us, and we know this is true." They explained about everything that had happened, about when they didn't know it was him, and then how they did when he broke the bread. And they were excited. This was truly good news. Jesus had risen from the dead. So there are a few things I love about this story. But the first is that in this story, Jesus first appeared to two women. At that time, women would not have had the same place in society as they do today. And so it was very unusual that Jesus would have gone to the women first. But then Jesus appears to two almost unknown disciples and goes and tells them to be the ones to help share the good news. So you see, Jesus sees people that are otherwise sometimes unseen, and he uses the unseen to make himself seen. Secondly, the thing about this story that I love is that Jesus encourages these people to ask questions. When they don't know what's going on and when they have doubts and questions, he encourages them to ask those questions. And he does that of us too. If we have questions about what's going on, or questions or doubts about things, it is okay to ask those questions. Jesus will give us answers. Finally, Jesus says that when we seek him with all of our hearts, we will find him. It tells us that in Scripture. And so I challenge you to seek after Jesus, and when you do, you will find him. Maybe not in the same way that the disciples found Jesus, but you will find him. And so this week, as you go, find ways to see God, to see Jesus in your everyday life, and to help others see him through you.